Instantly, if I see that you're having 2,200 calories and you're having 7 grams of fiber, I'm like, okay, there's a pretty low chance that the foods are quality.
Another cool thing about fiber, it has been shown to actually improve all-cause mortality. So your chances of just dying from anything lowers significantly the more fiber you eat, which is awesome.
No matter what we do, there are so many things pulling us in different directions.
Don't marry your beliefs, you should date them.
It's better to acknowledge a hard truth and face it head on rather than pretending it doesn't exist.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fit, Healthy, and most of all, Happy podcast. I am your coach and host, Josh, here with
his co-host and co-coach, KG, and I am the champion. We are reporting live to you here as the spring volleyball champions, Coach Josh, myself, our teammate Mary Kate, as well as Andrew. It was an amazing, hard-fought season, and we've talked to you about our volleyball season, and we just wanted to give you an update. There was 39 teams. We really just locked in, and we always say it doesn't matter about how you start. Obviously, that is very important. It's about how you finish. And we honestly were just so excited, and we just went in with full focus. And to me, it really feels so amazing knowing that we put in so much work. We tried really, really hard. And to come out first place out of 39 teams in a very competitive season and league, it just feels so incredible. So shout out to me. Shout out to Josh, shout out to our teammates, shout out to everybody we played against. It was an amazing season, and if you don't know, I love winning, and it feels great to be first place.
Yeah, as a listener, we consider you to be one of our friends, so we want to share some more of our life wins, and obviously this Motivation Monday, and we're really motivated because of that. This league we play in is pretty far from where we live now, so we're looking to retire after this season, so we really set the bar high. And we really want to do everything we can. I think it's a great reminder that when you set a goal, like you have systems to achieve it, it helps. So even Kyle, he noticed like, hey, we start slow as a team, and he's like, just pretend it's first to 5. And then from there, we're like, hey, it's first to 10. And it really helped kind of connect some dots. We made some adjustments. We really made sure to mentally get prepped before to make sure we were light and limber and ready for the game. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of motivation. And to secure that win is just, it's such an awesome feeling. And I think it's a good reminder too to accept challenge, overcome challenge. None of us really played volleyball like much in school or anything like that, but we've got a pretty good cohesion together, which has been fun. And I think doing different types of activity, like it's amazing how effortless it is to do cardio when you're out in the sun, you're playing beach volleyball. It's an awesome feeling and just a fun win we wanted to share.
And the one thing I wanted to talk about was just the power of visualization. There have been so many things I've done in my fitness journey and even just in sports where I feel like spending time thinking about what you want to accomplish and the outcome really, really helps you out. And this as an example is one of them, right? I spent a lot of time thinking about how I wanted to show up, the performance that I wanted to just have, the blocks I wanted to make, the sets I wanted to give to Coach Josh. And it came true. Obviously, having the right mindset is so powerful because when you go in and you know we can be the champs, we can win, here's what I want to do, here's how I want to do it, it helps so much. Most people go in with the mindset of like, oh, there's going to be a tough team, I'm kind of scared. And it's just, to me, whatever it is that you're trying to do, when you believe that you have what it takes, when you believe that, and you start to visualize the outcome that should take place, it helps so much. And it reminds me of my squat that I did years ago, 475 pounds. I visualize it every single time I went into the gym, every single squat session, the entire day that I was doing the meet. I visualized 475 on the bar. I visualized how I wanted to, the speed I wanted it to go. And it helps in so many different ways. So whenever you get a chance, think of the outcome, think of how you want to perform, think of how you want to show up, spend time with those thoughts, and I promise you can have better results. And that's something I spent a lot of time with, and I really, truly believe it helped.
Yeah, and in our coaching program, we have our clients track their workout intensities. I do this as well. So from a scale from 1 to 10, and sometimes clients will say, hey, what do you do to bring this up? And a big thing for me is getting myself mentally ready. So if I know I'm doing a big chest day, as silly as it sounds, like I'll just think of me loading up that bar, lifting really heavy weight, it moving really effortlessly, me getting in the right mindset leading up to the gym, really trying to fire myself up, listen to some good music, really kind of know what the plan is, where I'm working out, what time, allowing myself the appropriate amount of time to bring the most intensity, really focusing on my breath work in between sets, bracing myself for that next set. And it seems seems like overkill, but especially for like powerlifting meets or just maximizing intensity, these little differences can make a world of difference. If we just went in that game not even thinking about it and kind of just willy-nilly, and we even said, okay, what do we need to do in terms of our setup? Like we just like drawing these comparisons because all these things matter, right? And a lot of these games were close. We only won by a handful of points. And if you lose one game, you're effectively out. And all that work we did all season would be for nothing. So it's a great reminder to try to prep, prepare, visualize, put yourself in positions where you can be just have the most opportunity for success. But welcome Motivation Monday. We're clearly very fired up because of this, and we wanted to share a win with you. So thank you for listening. And now we're going to jump into the first question out of the mailbag. And that is, why do you recommend Fibre so much for fitness? And I am someone who really pushes for Fibre. Once again, in my coaching program, I have my clients track their macronutrients, so protein, fats, carbs, total calories. The one other thing I have them track that I'm really aware of, and sometimes I'll do a deeper dive if I need to, but most often I don't, and that is Fibre. And Fibre is an awesome catch-all because Fibre tells me most often if the quality of someone's diet, and there are exceptions because you can supplement with it. Things like Smart Sweets or other things with different types of solubility behind the fiber can be very, very high in fiber, some protein bars. So you do want to be mindful of that. It's different. Obviously, you're going to get the best fiber from whole foods because you're going to get other vitamins and nutrients alongside that, which are going to aid you. But in general, fiber is an amazing, amazing tool because first and foremost, it's going to help you feel more satisfied. Fiber bonds with water to actually cause you to feel more full in your stomach. So if you're eating whole, good foods high in fiber, you're going to feel more of a satiety effect behind that than if you're eating things that are really low in fiber. So that is your first immediate amazing benefit. Next is it's going to aid in your digestion, which is fantastic. Obviously, if you have better digestion, you're going to have less bloating, you're going to feel more regular, going to feel lighter, and things are just going to feel a lot better. Next up, it is phenomenal for gut health. So we've spoke about gut health before. It's going to cleanse everything out. It's a great source for just helping you excrete what you're digesting in your gut. And there's so many benefits there. Another cool thing about fiber, it has been shown to actually improve all-cause mortality. So your chances of just dying from anything lowers significantly the more fiber you eat, which is awesome. And there hasn't really been a ceiling on this effect. The one downside of fiber is if you have too much of it, some people will get GI discomfort. So it'll actually cause some digestive issues or they'll feel immense bloating. And if you're someone who has a very poor diet and you move just eating a ton of vegetables, a ton of lean meats, like those vegetables, your body still has to break them down. It'll take a lot of work. And I think that's where people will flip the switch too much instead of doing it gradually. And there's been some studies to show that doing it gradually is actually better. But for most people with fiber, you don't have to do anything too radical. For every 1,000 calories or so, if you're having like 10 to 15 grams, you'd be pretty covered there. So if you're eating 3,000 calories, you'd kind of want like 30 to 45 grams of fiber. And then from there, you can see how it feels in your stomach, how you do with it, and then you can kind of adjust from there. And when I see my clients are having like 2 grams of fiber, 4 grams of fiber, sometimes they'll say, hey, I want to look at your MyFitnessPal. I'll get a deeper dive and I'll see it's very basic food. So it'll be like white bread and then it'll be protein powder. And once again, you can still achieve a positive effect even if your food quality is low. The nutrients are going to help with other health related factors. And what's awesome with fiber is the more fiber you eat, going back to the all-cause mortality, it's been shown to help improve people's blood pressure, just any metric like fiber is positive towards. So it's like something that's really overlooked that is actually really powerful that most people don't consider in their diet. And Kyle's a pro and he's definitely going to have some good suggestions as to his favorite ways and sources to get fiber.
And I would argue that fiber is definitely one of the most underrated things because you just don't really hear too many people talk about it, right? You'll hear us talk and every other person out there, protein, protein, protein. But I just feel like it's so underrated as, like I said, not many people are preaching it. You know, like once again, people will have like decent diets where they're hitting their calories and their protein. But Josh's point is so true. Like instantly, if I see that you're having 2,200 calories and you're having 7 grams of fiber, I'm like, okay, there's a pretty low chance that the foods are quality. And that's like usually the first sign. But even still, like, I do think it's so important. If you were to just simply say, I'm going to have more healthy whole foods, I'm going to have more fruits, more veggies, and just really good foods for me, there's a very high chance be in a really good spot. I think it's so tough because even to the example of the candy, I forget what Josh called it, Smart Sweets, they're just loaded with fiber. And like, there's a lot of different ways you can get that goal, but then just not really be having more satiating, high volume foods. And I'll give you an example. There's a protein bar. It's like something crunch. I used to have it. It was like 20 grams of fiber, about 200 and something calories. And the issue is I just end up craving more foods. I end up craving more, sweets and stuff like, even though it's high protein and it's high fiber. And so you have to be careful with just like simply chasing like, all this extra stuff that's marketed as high fiber, even some high protein things. You have to be a little bit more careful. And what I want to do is put together an actual list of just like good foods you can have daily that's just really solid for you. And I broke it down into some different sections just to make it easy to understand like the different categories that you can get fiber from. Fruits are an amazing example, and I have a couple of them listed out. And this is based off of the serving size. But for example, raspberries and blackberries per serving size would be 8 grams of fiber. Blueberries, 4 grams, so it's a little bit lower. Apples are anywhere between 4 and 5 grams of fiber. So right there, like you can see that's literally 20 something grams of fiber, which is pretty crazy if you were to have all of those. And keep in mind, all of these aren't created equal, right? So for example, blueberries are going to be a lot lower calories. When I talk to you about black beans, there's a very big difference in calories. So you also have to be careful of just chasing fiber and not being careful of the calories. Because I noticed even with a discussion I had with a client recently, she was like, hey, I'm really trying to get my protein and fiber up, but then would start to ignore the calories because they're focused on that other number, when in reality, the calories will always be most important, right? So keeping in mind, like I love blueberries because they're lower calories, because I can get some good fiber, obviously so many different health benefits. So it's good to look at everything as a whole, right? Because if you're just like, I want to get my fiber up, and then you're just having like brown rice, brown bread, and like everything else, then your calories will go up. So you have to be a little bit cautious of that. But veggies are also amazing, right? When you think about it, broccoli, roughly 5 grams, Brussels sprouts, 6 grams of fiber. Green peas are amazing at about 9 grams. And then we're going to get into the category like beans and legumes are obviously fantastic, but obviously each serving size, the calories will be quite higher, but the fiber is really, really high in stuff like this. Black beans, 15 grams, lentils, 15 grams, chickpeas are great at 12 grams, and then edamame is another fantastic one, around 8 grams. And then a couple other things, even something I'll have every single day in my Greek yogurt will be nuts and seeds, right? So chia seeds, depending on the serving size in the bag that you have, it could be anywhere between 8 and 10 grams, which is awesome. Flax seeds are a great add-on if you're having a smoothie, if you're having oatmeal, if you're having like a Greek yogurt, and then hemp hearts as well. It's something that I have in my Greek yogurt every day. And then there's also whole grains and carbs. So something like oats, something like bran cereal, obviously, brown rice, brown bread, all that other stuff. But once again, bringing it back to the thought of like, those can be pretty high in carbs. So just being mindful of that within your overall calorie intake. So these are some great options. And I just wanted to share some of my favorites with you.
Yeah, and a lot of these are superfoods you can start to add in, like chia seeds. You can just sprinkle on top of yogurt. You could put them in a smoothie. You won't even notice. Just having more fruits and vegetables as snacks. And that's where I said it's a really good catch-all, because unless you're really manipulating the data with these fiber enhanced supplements or foods, most generally for me, like it's a good metric of like, how does my day look? Like, am I getting fiber in? And then you can also look at micronutrients and stuff. But once again, it's a good way to kind of account for a lot of data with just one data point. And that's where, as a coach, it's very helpful to me. And I'll notice sometimes too, like when fiber is really low and my client's hitting their calories, but they're really hungry, whereas last week their satiation was they were satisfied or full that whole week, oftentimes because that fiber is low, right? And that's where things like protein, fiber, and obviously staying hydrated, these are other additional tools that will satiate you more. Because if I eat my daily calories and I just eat it full of garbage with quick sugars and things that aren't going to satiate me very much, very basic foods, I'm not going to feel that effect, right? And that's where the more you can kind of do this, it's like a helping hand for you. And like I said, it's going to help with all those other things as well, which is so important. So if you've been neglecting fiber, I would even encourage you, just read some labels, look at different things. You can go ahead, like Kyle said, like we have a great list here. We have an awesome resource too. We have like a suggested food list that you can absolutely go ahead and grab. And you can grab that on our website, colossfitness.com, alongside our other amazing free resources. We have free resource with a full fat loss loss guide. We have a free resource with like over 70 exercises before and after, like a personal trainer in your pocket. So if you're in the gym and you're in a pinch, you're not sure if you're doing something right, it can be a great refresher for you to look through. And we got like a whole atlas so you can click and fast skip there. And like these are just incredible resources we made to help you become better, that are totally free with no catches. So please go ahead, gobble them up, utilize them. ColossFitness.com. Go ahead and grab that. But that was an awesome first question. Now we're going to jump into our quotes, and I'm going to jump into mine. And this is from Dr. Layne Norton, who is a beast in the fitness space. He's one of the best science-based researchers. He specialized in protein synthesis, but he's been an awesome voice just consistently in fitness. And I love this quote from him. It's, "If you show me the information and it makes sense, I'll just change my mind. I don't get married to my beliefs." That's one of the things I say is, don't marry your beliefs, you should date them. And I thought this was such a great quote because I think people will be quick to believe something. Like if they've always been told, never deadlift, you're going to hurt your back. It's just something they'll come to believe, and they'll try to push on other people and have a really hard time switching and understanding like, oh, deadlifts can be good and won't hurt your back if you do them with proper form. Or if someone, and I think with anything in training, anything in nutrition, like it's so tribalistic. If you got in really great shape because of High Rocks and you love it and you're a community person and you love goals and you love having races to train for, it's very possible you're going to say, hey, weightlifting's stupid. High Rocks is better because it worked for me. But that's where I do like to look at science. I looked at my experience, and because we have such an amazing pool of having helped over 5,500 people in our program, we have a really good understanding that everyone is so different. They're so unique, and science is constantly updating. The studies that are done are constantly updating, and things shift and adjust. And it's even been cool to see how creatine's always been recommended. And now there's just more and more amazing studies that are coming out about it, right? And obviously they're early stage studies, so can't be sure, but there's been some showing some positive effects during pregnancy. And once again, do your own research. I'm not saying to take this, but it's cool. There's another study done that like loading creatine after a bad night of sleep actually undid some of those effects of you being fatigued from that sleep, which is crazy. So like cool stuff like that, right? And then there's other times where, like I've mentioned in previous podcasts, everything kind of went one direction with like, oh, you should do as little volume as possible. Then I went to as much volume as possible. And what's funny too is like, I think also it's great to look at all this and then also see what works for you. And like I said, like High Rocks might work best for you because you love that type of thing, and that's good. And if you actually adhere to that and you just don't do the other stuff, that's awesome. That's great for you. But I think in general, anything we believe, like even me, like if it came out and was very, very clear that protein was not good for you and you should only have 100 grams a day, I would make that shift. And it won't happen because that has been very heavily researched. But once again, I think in general, it's good to believe these things, challenge them, and also see what feels best for you and make adjustments there. So don't just be so quick to just say, I'm only doing this because this is how I've always done it. I love when I'm learning that I'm doing something suboptimally because that means I can improve that and I can get better. Whereas I think a lot of people will be uncomfortable about that and they'll feel like they wasted time. But that's the joy of this journey. And that's what's so fun about fitness and health. And even as more eyeballs have come on it and more people have become receptive to the benefits for longevity, the importance of protein for longevity, like kind of these things that have been known since like the Arnold era of lifting, it's pretty cool. So I think this was an awesome quote. And I think we should always be looking to improve, challenge, and grow with our research.
And I think it's great that Josh mentioned everybody is so different. And that's where like we will never get on this podcast and just have these absolutes that make no sense. So for example, for me to say everyone should be training this exact way, like that would just be crazy for me to say because everyone's so different, everyone that's listening. Now, I'm okay to say I truly believe everyone should be strength training to a certain degree because I really believe it. And that is an absolute, backed by science, backed by all the stats, backed by everything out there. But I just think so many times people will follow these influencers and these influencers create a brand such as keto is the only way and the only way to succeed. And when in reality, like I said, everybody is so different. And I just think that you guys need to realize that, and everybody should realize that. And if there's ever a day that we're just preaching like there's only one way, then, I don't believe that's right. And a lot of the answers we want to give truthfully is usually it depends because everyone is so different. And not to toot my own horn here, but that's why I believe our coaching is so great because we look at every single person as a different person. We know everyone's different, their lives, their scheduling, what they need. And I thought that was a great point that Josh brought up. But I actually got this from Layne Norton as well. Funny enough, I don't remember what it was. I just remember stopping. I was listening to a YouTube video podcast of his, and I just said, okay, I got to write this down. And he had said, it's better to acknowledge a hard truth and face it head on rather than pretending it doesn't exist. And this can go for everything. This can go into happiness, this can go into like anything that you're doing in life. But I really brought it back to fitness, especially because I know so many people who don't want to face the reality of them skipping the gym, of them gaining weight. Even I've seen some recent posts showcasing if you were to have like an extra 300 calories a day in a surplus, that equates to, I don't know the math, but it's like 30 pounds gained per year, which is pretty crazy, right? And a lot of people don't address that. A lot of people are just saying, you know what, I'll deal with it in the future. Like, you know, it's just day to day, you don't really see that change. But then it's like from a yearly perspective or like 5 years, you know, that person's gained 50 pounds, that person's lost 20 pounds of muscle and has put on fat. And it's easy to brush it off, right? Because you don't really feel like you need to address it. And then the amount of people, my family members included, who it's very unfortunate to see, you know, years go by and then it's like, oh, got diabetes. Oh, you're needing a cane to walk at this certain age. And it's just really sad to see. And so my point is that whatever it is, if there's something you're putting off, it could be a conversation with someone, obviously your fitness journey. It could be something you want to do that you've just always wanted to do. It's just so much better just to address it now, face it head on, instead of just being like, oh, you know what, we'll deal with it when I have to get sick. Like, it's not fun to hear, but I just wanted to share that. And I thought it was a very, very powerful quote and something that you all should take into consideration today.
Yeah. And as we jump into our thoughts, one thought I found really interesting was I learned that the basis for the average recommended calorie intake of 2000. So if you look at food labels, they have the recommended intake was just based off of an average of people that were healthy, how much they ate, and they averaged out that number and how ridiculous that is. And I think in general, it's a good reminder to be so careful of absolutes, because if I just took every person to listen to this podcast and we got everyone's size, and some people are extra small, some people are triple XL, let's say the average shirt is a medium. And I said, everyone should wear a medium shirt. It's the best. It's the average. Everyone should have it. Like, that would be so ridiculous. And at the same time, it'd be very hard for them to say you should be eating on average 1,200 to 5,000 calories a day, right? And they account for the people that hardly move at all, that don't need very much food, or people that are older. And then they account for the NFL players who are doing 2-a-days plus weightlifting. Like, it's just, there's so much that goes into each individual. And that's where even in our coaching program, we've worked so hard to keep that individualized aspect of it, because everyone is so different, right? Like, if I write a routine for someone who's maybe never worked out in their life, they've never touched a weight, they've never played a sport, that's going to be so radically different from someone who maybe is super out of shape and they've been sitting around and they don't exercise, they don't do anything, but they used to be a D1 athlete. That person still has the muscle memories, they still have the experience. And like, that's where you can't compare those two just one to one, right? Like, there's so many nuances to it. And that's where we've kept such a human element of our coaching. Like, if I'm your coach, I'm physically, like, I look at your spreadsheet multiple times a week. I physically send you a video back and forth for your check-in. Like, it's me specifically focusing on you, hearing your story, your situation. If your kids kept you up all night or all week and your sleep got nuked and affect your training, and I can draw better lines when I have that context. It's just hard to say, like, and that's where like calculators and things are good, and baselines for like volume in the gym or exercise you should do, but everything is so unique. And that's where I kind of use that High Rocks example, right? Because I don't think that's the most optimal thing by far, not even close. And I don't think like CrossFit necessarily is a great thing for most people. For some people, I would believe it's the best thing. For a lot of people, I'd say, why would you be doing that? You don't need to do that. Like, you can just lift weights a couple times a week, go on some walks, and you'll be totally fine. But for some people, like, that's what will cause them to adhere. So it's really important you don't just try to really quick to go throw yourself into a bucket or a certain camp, and you really work to learn about you as a unique individual. And like, everyone is so different. And we've used that example before with food, why we don't do meal plans. Kyle's meal plan would have a bunch of cheese and fish and different things. I'm lactose intolerant. I don't like fish. So it naturally wouldn't work, right? Is it to say cheese and fish are bad? Absolutely not. And that's why with fitness, obviously we'd probably do a lot better if we just like picked a camp and really harped on that camp and said, you need to do this or you won't succeed. But we want to keep it very real. We want to give you great information. And I just found that interesting as well, because I think so many people are so quick to want these one size fits all answers.
Yeah, and my biggest thing is really having that customization. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to open up 5 discounted spots for the month of July. If you're looking to get one-on-one support, looking to actually succeed instead of saying, oh, next month or next year or next Monday or whatever it is, and get one-on-one guidance with someone like us, Josh and myself, who will actually change your calories, who will hold you accountable, who will send you videos, who will customize literally everything. If you want us to support you at a discounted rate for the month of July, it is a 90-day program because we need to spend more time with you to get some incredible results. But I promise you, it'll be the greatest thing you ever do for yourself. You're finally going to stop spinning your wheels. You're finally going to be like, honestly, my biggest regret is that I didn't start sooner, especially if you've heard us talk about coaching over and over again. I promise you, it'll be the greatest thing. These spots will go by quickly. So all you have to do, second link down below, just click our website, colossusfitness.com. The application will take you literally 2.5 minutes if you put in some detail, and we will get back to you as soon as possible to accept your spot into our coaching program. And we can't wait to help you get guaranteed results through July, August, and September. So one thing that is on the top of my head, just I want to share quickly, is that I consistently think about how the odds are stacked against us. And no matter what, there will always be things pulling us in different directions. And that's why I truly believe we have to become an unstoppable unit. We have to become disciplined. We have to become just like really locked in, because no matter what we do, there are so many things pulling us in different directions. And I look at it in 3 different categories: food, money, and then media, right? And so what I mean by this is I got thinking about this an hour ago in the sauna. A guy brought his phone in. He's on Amazon. He's ordering a bunch of stuff. I just see him like looking through stuff, like literally in the sauna, just spending hundreds of dollars. And I was like, well, that's going to be coming tonight. It's a click of a button. His card's already saved. Cool. You just spent a bunch of money, right? We've all done it. We all do it. And just in every single area, they're making things so much more convenient. These companies and these people that have millions, if not billions of dollars of a budget. And obviously relating this more to fitness, that's the same thing. People think, oh, you're a fitness coach, so it must be easy. I'm like, no, I'm still against all of these companies. I just have better habits and I'm just more disciplined. But even myself, I still will find different things where I'm like, oh, this is tempting, right? There'll be flyers that come in. There'll be, just everywhere I go, there's 1,600 places that I drive past. There'll be people posting things. There'll be like always something. And that's why I just really recommend spending time developing the habits, spending time developing discipline, not relying on motivation, and just really realizing that we have to fight these things. We have to fight the temptations and do everything we can to try to push it away. And even going to a different example, media, right? There are billions of dollars being pumped into making notifications appealing, making Instagram to be the place that we want to spend tons of time on, Facebook, Snapchat, like you name it, X, whatever it is. And so these are things that are just constantly going to pull us in different directions to distract us, to make us want to spend more, eat more, scroll more. And it's just going to keep going. So I just really recommend building up that self-discipline. And I'm still trying to become better at all these things, but I just feel like I have to keep doing better and keep pushing you guys to do better as well.
Yeah, when you get in bad habits, it's really hard to break a bad habit and it's really hard to build a good one. But when you get in a good one, you're consistent with it and you kind of beat it out of your system. It's easier to stick to your guns. And even the cleaner you eat, usually you crave more clean foods and you can only handle so much not as good food because it kind of really starts to bug you. You can feel that difference. You can feel that lethargy and can really have its effect. And same with the gym. Like we said, when you're going consistent, it's easy. When you get in the habit of every night, you stop cooking, you just start ordering garbage, like your body will adapt to that, right? Instead, you want it to adapt to better habits. And a lot of it is that initial point of friction, just doing that hard thing one time, doing it again, repeating. And speaking of someone who is struggling, who is absolutely crushing it, who do we have for our client shout out this week?
This week we have Brooke, who is well over 100 pounds down. I am so proud of her. She has a completely different identity and she's just literally crushing it. When I check her spreadsheet, when I do my check-ins with her, she's just always putting in work. Her steps are insanely high. She does cardio every day. She literally even eats most of the same stuff. And really what I attribute a lot of her success to is just obviously her desire to succeed, get accountability, get help, but just really the identity change, the person that she's become. She was obviously a very different person in the mid 300 pound range. And now, 170-ish, she's got new habits. She, like, literally everything she does is just, it's habitual. It's what she knows, it's what she does. And that's why I talk about this so much. Like, obviously to lose 20 pounds, a lot of it will be very similar, but to lose that much weight and to keep it off, which honestly is so amazing. Like, when you guys see her photos, you can see it here and go check it out on Instagram. You are going to be absolutely mind blowing. And this was all from hard work, consistency, following the right routine, showing up for herself, and just having that accountability, and just knowing that everything she does is the right stuff, right? I see so many people who will instantly go order a bunch of supplements. They will, maybe try to just do these fad diets, and they'll just do all the wrong stuff. Yeah, you lose 20, 30 pounds, which is awesome. They end up gaining 30, 40, 50 back. Whereas Brooke has lost over 100 pounds and she's literally thriving, which is so incredible. So if you want results like Brooke, if you just want to lose weight and feel better, once again, application is open right now. Second link. Make sure to fill that out and go show some love on our Instagram for Brooke. She comments on every post. She shares every post. She's such a valid member of this community, and we're so proud of her.
Shout out you, Brooke. You're a legend. And listen, even if you don't have 100 pounds to lose, even if you're like, you feel like you're going in the right direction, but you're just going too slowly, we would love to help you speed that up to see your full potential, to analyze every component of your journey, your habits, your nutrition, your training plan, your goals, and your time frames. Like, these are things me and Kyle are experts in, and we would love to work with you one-on-one to make that happen. So make sure to send that keyword. But now we're going to go ahead and jump into our next question. And this was one I actually put in here because I've been asked this a lot, and I've wondered this a lot. And it's, why do I weigh in heavier when I am sick? Now, I've always known the answer to this to be because you're sick, your body's dehydrated. So if you're not hydrating, you'll weigh in lighter. But if you're someone who really tries hard to hydrate when you're sick, which you should, right? Because your body is working hard to fight that. It's trying to sweat it out. It's trying to get rid of that illness, right? So what you're doing most often is drinking a ton of water, oftentimes having a lot of salty foods, and your body will retain more of that water. So that is the most obvious, straightforward answer. I looked into it a little more, and some of the over-the-counter flu medications can actually cause your kidneys to hold on to more water. And then the next answer is inflammation. So if you consider congestion, your face swells up, everything, that's your body trying to fight against the virus by actually causing you to hold more water in your system. And as you hold more water, if you've ever had a massive amount of salt at night and then drinking a ton of water, chances are you've weighed in really heavy that next day. That is going to be a natural response to it. So these are common reasons. And then the last one that was unique was change in bowel movements, because perhaps you're moving less, you're laying down, you're sedentary. That can actually affect bowel movements, and that can obviously greatly affect weight. And then the bonus answer to this question that's kind of fun is, I'll get asked these questions all the time. Why is the scale at 5 pounds today? Like, how did I gain 5 pounds? I don't know how that's even possible. I hit my calories. Or why is it down 5 pounds? And my answer is always the same. And in our program, once again, going back to it, I encourage my clients to weigh in every single day, at least like 3 to 5 times a week, like at a minimum, but ideally every single day. And the reason for this is it's a truer number. If like you're sick and for 2 days you overhydrate like crazy, or maybe one of those days you like don't eat at all and you weigh in the next day, you're going to be super light, and then you're going to rehydrate everything, and then you're going to be super heavy. And like if you weigh on that light day, you're going to think, oh my gosh, I've lost so much weight. I actually weigh 5 pounds less than I thought I did. But if you went on that other day, you'll be like, I'm 5 pounds heavier than I thought I did. And it's so messy. It's like, how do you put stock in those numbers, especially when they're skewed? Whereas when you weigh in every day, you get an average. You're encompassing for the low, you're encompassing for the high. You can look at your weekly low, you can look at your weekly high, you can notice changes and trends. And for me with clients, this is the best depiction of, are we actually losing weight? And sometimes weight will go in whooshes or swings, and you won't see weight loss for 4 or 5 days, and boom, all of a sudden you'll see a massive breakthrough and you'll hit this new low and you'll be at that number. Other factors could be if you first start taking creatine and you saturate from that, that's going to be more water retention. Obviously, you're going to be heavier. If you eat late at night, if you don't have a bowel movement, if you have a ton of salt during the day, all of these things will affect your weigh-ins, right? And there's so many things that can go into this and that can affect your weigh-ins, the density of the food you're eating. Like, there's just so many factors, and people can get really obsessive with it. And they can get really obsessive if you have a once a week weigh-in. Most often we'll course correct our actions and we'll be really dialed in a couple days before. We'll eat a little bit less, we'll be under our calories, and then we'll get this false positive that our weight's lower than we thought, but we've really just manipulated that number. So that is where that is not going to be a long-term solution. Instead, these averages disassociate the scale as your worth, because you understand it's a tool, you understand it goes up, it goes down, and it can remove some of that internal friction of you feeling horrible when you see it go up or down. And in general, it's like, is the path and the trend where I'm wanting to go? And I always like to see, are my clients losing the appropriate weight on average from week to week? And that's where things like this are always interesting to me, because I was actually sick. I nailed my calories. I knew the answer, and then I wanted to look some more into it, because it's always fun to know the context behind it as well. And also it can be a little bit of a reliever, because I'll have clients and it'll be their time of the month, and with hormones changing, water retention, so much going on, a lot of them will gain a lot of weight, or they'll bloat up and it'll feel like they've gained weight, right? Because they don't feel their best, they're heavier on the scale, but they haven't gained weight at all. It's explainable. And everyone's so different. Some gain a lot more weight on average, some don't. Some gain it the week before. Like, once again, everyone is so different. And that's where, like, the more you can learn more about yourself, you can start to anticipate these things. To be like, okay, I was sick, I had a ton of fluids, I didn't move very much. Like, even though I hit my numbers on the head and I crushed it today as far as I could for being sick, chances are the scale might not reflect that. But what I always like to encourage my clients with is, if you're doing the right actions, you're doing the right things, you know you hit your calories, you know things are accurate, even if the result is not what you want it to be, like you see the scale changing, as long as you keep doing those right things and you truly are doing them, like you're not fudging the numbers or anything, you will see that result come and you will earn it. Even if there is like a weird thing like this popping up, or one of the examples I mentioned, is you'll see your way through it as long as you just stick to your guns. And where people go wrong is they'll get frustrated and they'll just quit what they're doing right before they had that big breakthrough where they see that scale come down 2-3 pounds all of a sudden. So I know I got a little bit into coaching mode, but I think it's a good understanding to have that, like, the scale is just a tool.
Yeah, and this to this day will affect so many people. Where I talk to people, they're like, "Oh, well, I don't want to weigh in too much; it's bothering me." And I'm like, "It's only bothering you because you're letting it bother you." And so, what's funny enough is, like, a lot of times when people have these mindsets of like, "Okay, I'm only going to weigh in on this like really good day where I know I nailed everything." Oftentimes, it's not the numbers you expect. Like, if you're expecting to be like a really low day, it's so possible it's much higher, which could mess with you, right? There's some days where you're like, oh, I maybe feel like it would be a bit higher, and it ends up being lower. It's what our body does, right? For 10 to 20 different reasons. Even last night, we ate later. We celebrated the big win with a couple tacos. I had so much water because it was intense, but I was burning a lot of calories. I woke up today with a nice low weigh-in. I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. But the truth is, I didn't care. I put the number in the spreadsheet. We'll reflect on it next week. It's all good. If tomorrow I weigh in higher because the extra salt that was in the Chipotle bowl, and it is what it is, and whatever, like, and I'm higher, then that's also okay. I'm still gonna weigh in the next day. I'm still gonna keep going, right? Whereas some people will be like, oh, well, I'm not going to do for the next 3 days because I'm so frustrated. And believe me when I say it, to this day, I still will have those thoughts of like, man, like, why is it doing this? Like, what's going on? I always have to remind myself, I'm like, it is what it is. We put the number in, we trust the data, we calculate the average, and that's what makes the biggest difference. So I'm really glad this question was brought up, because to this day, so many people are struggling and they're not weighing in enough, and they don't have the proper data as well.
And once again, I want to remind you, if you want to submit a question for Motivation Monday, you can do so clicking the link where it says submit a question in the show notes. We have a direct form on our website that you can fill out, that you can submit a question. We're always looking for awesome questions, and I think we're only one episode ahead. So if you ask now, there's a great chance your question will be answered on the next podcast. So make sure to go over to the show notes, grab those free resources, all that amazing stuff. But we're going to get into our third and final question of the day. And that is, question for you, coach. If you've been bulking and in a surplus of 250 to 500 calories, how do you know when to do a cut? Is there a body fat percentage range you would recommend? Or if the strength game starts stalling, and for how long? In the cut, would you drop calories slowly, 250 every week or two, or dramatically by 1,000 to 2,000 calories, and for how long? And this is from Michael. So obviously a lot to unpack here. If you just want to pick one part of this, Kyle, and jump into it.
Yeah, I'm going to start with like when to know how to cut after a bulk. And my answer is always, it depends. Really, you have to know what you want and how you're feeling, because everyone's levels of, how they're feeling is going to be completely different. I have some people I know who are far okay pushing a bulk further, knowing they're gaining muscle, they're feeling really good. It's the month of November, they're feeling jacked in a big shirt, and they're feeling incredible. And they're like, hey, I'm okay with a little bit more fat gain. I'm okay to push towards 20-ish% because I know that it's going to be worth it. Some some people like myself, I'm at a point now where I know that if I'm going to do a bulk, once I start looking at myself shirtless and I'm starting to feel slightly unhappy with myself, where I'm like, I just noticed the fluff and like a little bit of love handles and I'm just not happy with it. That's when I say, okay, you know what? Enough is enough, right? I've done the bigger bulk. I've gone through different phases. I've been 207 pounds. Right now I'm sitting at like 168. And so I think the biggest thing really when it comes down to it is understanding what it is that you want to accomplish and having that point in the top of your head of like, okay, this is where I want it to end, like roughly. Because once again, so many people will push things so much further and then some people will just never give it a chance, right? So when you sit down with yourself in a game plan, you know, okay, you know what? Right now I'm 168 pounds. I've been in a deficit for a while. For myself, I might do a nice 12 to 16 week, bulk. I'm going to try to gain about half a pound per week. That brings me into the mid 170s. Then I'm going to chill for a little bit. It gives me a good idea. So I'm not going to be bulking for the next 24 months and 2 years and just letting myself really get fat, but it's also going to give me time to do that bulk where in 2 weeks, I'm not just going to be like, oh, well, I'm feeling fluffy. I'm just going to stop. So having that guideline of like how long you should roughly be going. And this is what we do with all of our coaching clients. When we give them an idea of how long to do a bit of a bulk, most people are scared to do it because they've been dieting for a bit, because they've lost a lot of body fat. So when they know how long we're going to roughly go, and once again, I have to say that it also depends because everyone's so different. If I tell someone it's going to be 16 weeks, it might be a little bit different based off of how they're feeling, how quick things adapt, how everything changes in their body. And we might cut it a little shorter or we might cut it a little bit longer. But it really comes down to what you want, how happy you are, and just everyone's so different. I can't stress that enough because the different time frames are so unique based off of your situation, how lean you are, how much weight you've gained in that bulk, how much fat of it you've gained, how much muscle you've gained. And it's so situational. So that's kind of my long answer for that one.
Yeah, I like Kyle's point about having like either a timeline, so say this many weeks or this many pounds or this size, or I'll reevaluate here, or doing mini cuts along the way, because it's real easy for a bulk just to turn into a forever bulk or a bro bulk and just becomes like I'm eating whatever I want. I don't care because I'm bulking. And I think it becomes like a very like you get in that gray zone pretty quick because you have this excess of calories, and it's easier to be dialed into your calories when you're cutting, because if you're not, you don't see the results, right? If you just keep blowing them out of the water every few days, you're just going to end up going down and then going up, and it's just going to be on this roller coaster. Whereas with the bulk, you can kind of get away with like being a little bit looser, having some more food, right? Maybe your tracking isn't as accurate. The downside with that is eventually you can put on a lot of weight. You can justify it away as I'm bulking, and you can end up becoming way bigger than you want, to where one day you're like, you feel like you can't break the cycle. So that's for me, I like to be really calculated with it, because like I said, it can easily get in that gray zone. And to the question of the strength gain starts stalling, like you shouldn't really be stalling out if you're in a surplus of calories. Like your body should have more fuel than it needs. That should be very supportive of strength development. And strength is unique, where sometimes you'll do everything right and it just won't come. You just got to stick to your guns, be consistent, and you will get that breakthrough. But in general, I wouldn't let the stalling be a reason to end the bulk either. You should have some aim or goal of like how much you're looking to bulk, what you're looking to do with your physique, how much muscle you're like looking to put on, and like kind of go from there. But that's where it's such a dynamic process. Like as a coach, I don't like, I'll say, okay, I think we could bulk into this month or tentatively this weight. I'll get their photos and I'll be like, dang, like you still look shredded beyond belief. Like we can push this bulk more. We'll push it more. And sometimes I'll say we can do like 10 pounds of a bulk, and after 5, they feel fluffy, they're over it, they don't like it, and they're like, I don't want to be much bigger than this. I feel like I put on a good amount of muscle, and we'll cut it there. That's where I don't like presetting things or saying hard rules if you should cut 250 calories. Like for me, like if someone's cutting to the question of how many calories to cut, to start a good deficit, I would say like 10 to 20% of your calories to start. I don't mind a slightly larger cut off the start. Like a lot of people I think will go wrong, will enter a cut, they'll cut their calories by like 150, which is like not necessarily a rounding error, but you'll start to adjust, and your body's smart, right? Like it'll adjust things like your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. You can also adjust like how much cardio you're doing, and you can kind of wash out the effect of that. And that's why I like the 10 to 20%, because you also get the psychological buy-in where you're like, oh shoot, like maybe I can't be having a donut for dessert today. I'm going to have to just not have that, or I'm going to have a smaller portion of dinner. And like it allows you to really psychologically buy into that cut. So that's where I like that 10 to 20% rule. I think it's best. So if I'm eating 3,000 calories, it'd be like 300 to 600 calories. But it really truly depends on the individual. Some people will see amazing changes from very technical 100, 200 calorie drops. Some people need more drastic drops. Some people won't see much weight loss and they're pretty good at self-adjusting, like I said, between the non-exercise activity thermogenesis as well as the cardio they're doing, and they need a more dramatic drop. And you can do a Hail Mary and recover, where you do a bigger drop and you aim to reintroduce calories till the fat loss stops. Like, there's so many things you can do technically to actually get the result. And that's where everyone is so unique. Like we said, there isn't necessarily a one size fits all answer. And like, there's other factors that play into this too, like cardio, protein intake. So these are all things we like to control for and be aware of. But I think this was a great question. And once again, if you want help bulking, cutting, maintaining, improving your longevity, adding muscle, you have an amazing opportunity to do it. Like Kyle said, we got 5 discounted spots, and you can go ahead and claim yours by going over to ColossFitness.com, submitting an application, telling me more about your journey, and I look forward to telling you how I'm going to help you become the best version of yourself. We also got all our free resources there on the website, so make sure to grab those. You do not want to miss out on that. And you can submit a Mailbox Monday question there. So definitely make sure after this episode here, you're heading over to that website, because there's lots of goodies there, and we look forward to getting you the results you deserve. But thank you so much for tuning in today for Motivation Monday. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.